buffering. It's buffering. Hi. This amazing technology is telling me that I'm live now, so I'm certainly hoping that I am. My tech wizard over there is going, no, you're not. But I think it's buffering. I don't know how long it takes to buffer, but I think it's buffering. I also notice that I'm very shiny. Well, you'll just have to see me shine. Oh, see, it came up at some point and someone's commenting on it. So the old one came up. There's a new one coming up now. Hold on. Can you put something in the box? Okay, that tells people that this other thing is going to be very short, and then I'll be back. So, here I am. And I think what I'll talk about until you all join me in real time is where I've been and what I've been doing because so many of you have asked. Um, for those of you who have no clue who I am, I'm Reverend Marlene Morris, and I've been a minister for longer than some of you have been alive, and I love what I do. Um, that's the basics. I'll fill in details as we go along. I want to thank Cac Young for being my angel and my correspondent and my link to reality and to you, and for sending you messages so she knows, so you know what I'm up to. And thanks for all the tech, which is really pretty funny when you get down to it because neither one of us is really a techie. But we're making this work somehow. I actually tried to be on before 7 o'clock to greet you as you came in. You may now have seen that little bitty piece. Um, but nonetheless, here I am now. And my clock says it is 7:05. So I don't know what time you'll actually see this. There. So for those of you who don't know anything about me at all, I was the minister at Spirit Works Church of Religious Science in Burbank, California for 19 years. And I loved it. I loved the people. And then I disappeared. Well, I didn't really disappear, but I left Spirit Works and moved to Cambria, which is a gorgeous spot on the coast here in California, just a few miles south of San Simeon and the Hearst Castle. Um, I was there to heal. I had not practiced good self care and I had gotten pretty sick. So we went to where the air was fresh and the pace was slower, a lot slower, and um, and I loved it there. I really did love it there. But after about 2 years or so, I got bored. I had been in Burbank for a long time, and I was used to that speed and a lot of people and the wonderful congregation at Spirit Works, and I missed especially the people. So, having become somewhat bored, oh, it's way too dark in here for me. Thank you. I decided to do weddings, and I did that for a great amount of time and loved it. But I was still missing the church experience, being with people, thinking and talking and getting excited about God and how God works in and through each one of us. So I got involved with the Unity Church there. It's really its own story. Um, but I loved it. I got to be their minister for about 3.5 years and loved every minute and every person and every talk and every Sunday. And then we moved again. The first time we moved for my health, the second time we moved for Cac's health, um, it all worked out. And we moved to Ventura, which is where I am now. And I love Ventura, and the people here. And I now speak in Ventura on the first Sunday of every month at Ventura Unity. That's not exactly accurate anymore. Because of our social distancing, I am now speaking for the Unity Church on their Zoom conferences on the first Sunday of every month. And will be again this coming Sunday. As a matter of fact, I was just asked and said yes. I have found another church that is just lovely and wonderful, and as usual, I love the people. I love metaphysicians. I love people that are open to looking at their spirituality in a new way. I love having the reminders around me of how it is to really be in God and excited about it. So, now I have found yet another congregation. Here we are. Oh, thank you. Cactus handed me a note that said, not this coming Sunday. It doesn't say dummy after it, but it could. Not this coming Sunday, the 19th. I'll be speaking this coming Sunday is Easter, and they do have plans for that. But Ventura Unity Church online, Facebook Live, Zoom. They're not doing Facebook Live. They used to do Facebook Live. Now they're doing Zoom meetings. And if you go to their website, they'll tell you how to get to.
We always post a link.
And we will post a link. See, everybody should have one. Thank God I do. Anyway, so I told you that on Wednesdays I would kind of like to go off script. It's an old habit. When I was at Spirit Works for all those years, the Wednesday night service was off the top of my head. On Sunday, I used kind of a scripted talk, as much as I stick to a script, because I did 2 and sometimes 3 services on a Sunday morning. And I wanted, if people talked to each other after church but had been to different services, I wanted them to feel like they had kind of heard the same talk. Wednesday night was my deal with me, that whatever came to mind would be what I would talk about. And in those days, I used to go out to dinner several times a week, let's put it that way. But always on Wednesday, because I would work in the office up until 5 o'clock and rush out and get a quick dinner and come back in time for Wednesday Night Live, which was always a joy because I didn't have to do a script ahead of time. I didn't have to do a talk ahead of time, but I did have to think of something ahead of time. And usually something that happened either during the day or while I was out to dinner was what inspired me. Sometimes it was the conversation going on over my shoulder in the next booth. Sometimes it was something the waiter said. Lots of things tend to inspire me, so it didn't take a whole lot. But again, I never had to have a script. I just walked out and said, hi, here I am. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. And then I would start talking about what had inspired me. I also had music on Wednesday night, and usually a time when there were questions and people could ask their questions. And then we would say a prayer and we'd be out of there. And I, excuse me, I loved it. I just loved it. Wednesday was a joy. Never any work. So I was getting ready for tonight, and I thought, what am I going to talk about? Can't go out to dinner. None of the restaurants are open. And even if you could go out to dinner and get somebody to open up for you and let you sit down in the restaurant and eat, there wouldn't be anybody at the next booth to eavesdrop on, spiritually speaking, of course. So I suddenly realized that my sources of inspiration were limited. Now, Kat gave me some wonderful ideas, and you will be hearing those, but I didn't have quite enough time to kind of just cogitate on them. And that sound is loud over here. I'm listening to myself talk, which is kind of an interesting experience. So I'm interrupting myself, is what I'm doing. I'm not sure which one of us is doing it. At any rate, here we are. It's Wednesday night. What do you want to hear? It occurred to me in the interesting times that we're in, it might be more important to hear what's on your mind than what's on mine. Might be more important, more timely, more effective to let you tell me what you would most like me to talk about. Or let me know what questions you may have that possibly I can answer. Or at least point out the spiritual principles that apply to it. And with that, you can probably find an answer. It's been an interesting week for all of us, hasn't it? And I'm sure that in all of that, questions have come up. So what are they? Let me know. I'm going to give you a little time to maybe put some ideas into the mix here. And let me know what your questions may be. I'm not going to try to answer all of them tonight. Some of them I may save up for next Wednesday so that I actually have something specific to talk about. If you've got an idea for a talk, just put it in there and let me know. Errant thoughts, apropos of nothing in particular. I got a real ID this week. It came in the mail. I went to the DMV a couple of weeks ago, and thank God they took a new picture. I was the only one in there. That was a very surreal experience. Being in the DMV, no crowds. Oh, no crowds at all. There were probably 4 people working there and me in the moment. Somebody did walk in just as I was leaving, but that was about it. I mean, they are really honoring this appointment thing. I gave them all my material. They took my picture. They sent me home. I was in and out in 10 minutes, maybe? The DMV. And 2 weeks later, sure enough, I don't even think it's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, my real ID showed up. I've got it right here. I probably should cover up some of the information because, well, you know, there are people who aren't as honest as you are. Anyway, there it is. New picture. I like the picture. I'm happy, but now I have a question. If this is a real ID, what did I have before? What was it that I was using? Was it a not real ID? Just something to think on. Paul Witt says, the area he's working on is learning how not to lead with his experience, but to lead with his heart. That's interesting, Paul, because I would not have thought that of you. I'm not sure I know the same Paul you think you know. I know a Paul who always seems to lead with his heart. At least that's been my experience of you. It's a choice. It really is a choice. And I would say this, in the middle of an experience, stop for a second. You can do this while you're still talking, actually, or moving around, or somebody else is talking. Stop for a minute and say, am I coming from my heart? Is this what I want to create? If you remind yourself enough times, there will come a time when you don't have to ask anymore, because it becomes a habit. I used to have a prayer. Those of you who've done classwork with me know this, but hang in there. You'll probably, over time, hear a lot of things you've heard before. I used to have some bad habits. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. And some of those habits had to do with how I looked at the world and how I considered myself. And what's true is I created a mantra for myself. And the mantra was very simple. It was this: there's me doing that, and I don't do that anymore. I used it a lot in the old days. I'd get frustrated driving in traffic, and then I'd stop and I'd say, oops, there's me doing that, and I don't do that anymore. And that immediately calmed me down and reminded me that I was in charge of my experience. There's me doing that, and I don't do that anymore. I practiced it, and then one day I realized I didn't need it anymore because I wasn't doing that anymore. I give that to you for whatever it's worth. But I do have to reiterate, Paul, that my experience of you is that you do come from your heart. You may just not know it yet. And maybe you don't do it all the time under all circumstances. So then borrow my mantra. It works. It really does work. So, who else is here? I'm going to take a minute and just visit if you don't mind. Rosemarie, I don't know if you had a chance to hear me on the first little bit before it just wasn't working. But I wanted to thank you for the little gif you sent me. This is how technical I am. With the wonderful little guy with the confetti. I just loved it, and it brightened me up, and even when this wasn't working the way I wanted it to, that made me happy. Thank you for making me happy. Kendra, good question. Hi, Kendra, glad you're here. Kendra says people are frightened. Oh, yes. And you don't even have to go out into the world now to know that, do you? People are frightened. How can we reframe the issues to see the spiritual truth? We can first of all know that this has come to pass. It didn't come to stay. It won't last forever. And then I think we can know that there is a gift in it greater than the experience that we're having in the moment. That we will come out of this stronger, better, more spiritually centered, and oh, what a gift that would be. That we can see that if all that there is God, and that's a huge spiritual lesson, but if we can see that, if we can cling to that, if we can know that, then we have to know that this is all part of the activity of that spirit, which is creative and loving always, not punishing. We can know that something greater will come of this than we ever could have imagined. But I think we all have to know it together. Not every single one of us. You know, there's the 51% rule. That if something just goes over that 50%, just even a little bit of it steps over that line, it changes the world. Now, there are those who are going to tell you it's a 20% rule, but I don't fully believe that. But aim for 50. If I'm wrong, you will have passed the 20, and it'll be better anyway. The thing is to know that something greater will come of this. We don't know what. And that's hard for us. We like to know the what's. We like to know the how's. We like to know exactly what's happening and why it's happening and who started it. And we don't. We don't. There's some conspiracy theories going around right now. I'm not even going to address them because that's what I really believe they are. That want to place blame for this. How do you place blame for a pandemic? And what good does it do you anyway? All it does is create animosity and create pseudo-villains, pseudo-bad guys. I mean, maybe there is some source that was done intentionally. I don't know, but I prefer not to believe that. I prefer to believe this all has a greater cause, a greater purpose than we can see. Can you imagine how the disciples felt on Good Friday? I mean, we're almost there again, aren't we? So let's talk about it for a minute. How must they have felt? What good could come of this? What possible purpose could it serve? This horrible thing that is happening. Our leader, who we believe is the Son of God, our leader is going to be hung. How could anything good be about this? And yet, you know the rest of this story. I don't have to tell you. Not just something good, something great came of it. And even if it's just a story, it's a great story with amazing life lessons in it. What good can come of this? Start with yourself. It's the only place any of us can ever start. What good can come of this? What good can come of your life? What great things can be instigated in your life because of this? I can tell you one of mine. I'm here. I'm talking to you. I have reconnected with some people I haven't talked to in almost a decade, or more than a decade, I guess. It's been that long since I left Spirit Works. Susan, blessed to see you again this evening. I think of you so often. And Maxwell, who is a man now and was a child when I left. Dana, hi, it's Wednesday night and here we are again. Rosa Maria, you just make me smile. My darling Laura, who I've known since she was 9? She's now a grown woman with grandchildren. Oh, hi Mark, hi Paul. Good has come of this in my life. I'm speaking again now, twice a week on a regular basis, and twice on some Sundays. I'm in heaven. Now, could I have done all of this without a pandemic? Oh, of course I could have. But it's taken a pandemic to get me thinking outside the box. To listen to those people that said, you should just reach out. And I kept saying, but I need real people to relate to. I need faces and smiles and faces that I can see so that my intuition will know what that person needs to hear. Apparently that's not true. Apparently I can do that this way. Good has come of this. And it can for you too. I'm willing to bet there are many of you out there who could say, well, there is this that is a better thing. And there is that. Some of you who are working from home, who didn't work from home before, are probably convincing your bosses that that's not a bad way to go. Good can come of this. You can't convince everybody of that, but you can tell them that, and that will get them thinking. And when they start thinking, when they get their brain and their spirit involved in the process, perhaps they can find the good in it too. This is not an evil thing foisted upon us by an angry God. I don't believe that. And I don't believe that nature is so mad at us that she's trying to get even, although I have heard that. I believe we are challenged to rise up, to be bigger than the circumstances, to find the love and the wisdom and the grace and the understanding in our hearts to deal with this time and to find a new way of being on earth. I think that's our challenge. To find a new way of being, a more spiritually centered, loving, understanding way of being. I have a new note. Oh, good question, Mark. Mark Gilmore says, how not to be ground down by the challenge. Pretty much the same answer. If you know that there is a higher purpose in this, and I'm not talking about an outside God that's saying, learn this. I'm talking about knowing that each of us is called to be something greater than we were before this. And look for that. Look for that. What is it you've always wanted to do and not done? What is it you think you have been called to but haven't responded? What is it you'd love to do that you've never let yourself do? Now's the time. We have a golden opportunity to become more. We can take classes. Everything is online. We can get certified. We can get licensed. We have time. We have the opportunity. There are classes from, and I wish I had that in front of me, but I don't. There are classes from Ivy League schools that are being given online for free right now. Princeton, Harvard, Yale. Free classes. Take one. Start that thing you've always wanted to do and see where it goes. You may discover a couple classes in this is not for you. I can remember when I went to college, I wanted to be a journalism major. And then I found out that in order to be a journalism major, you had to take economics. I wanted to write. I was interested in words. What in the world? But I signed up for the class. And I went a few times. It was 7 a.m. That was my excuse, was that it was a 7 a.m. class and that I just couldn't crawl out of bed at 5:30 to get to a 7 o'clock class. Truth was, I was so bored with the class. I just couldn't be there. If I did show up, which I did in the beginning, because I was a good little girl, I was trained to be a good little girl and go to class, I fell asleep in the middle of class. No, I fell asleep in the first quarter of class. It wasn't for me. Economics wasn't for me. What is it you want to do? Go find out about it. Research it. Look into it. See what you don't know. It'll keep you busy so you won't be ground down. I'd like to say stop listening to the news, but I'm hooked on it. We want to know. But don't let the bad news get you down. This too shall pass. It came to pass. It didn't come to stay. Laura wants to know, how do I become more comfortable with being uncomfortable? Ooh, that's such a good question. We're all a little uncomfortable right now, aren't we? I believe that if we know that our discomfort comes from the world being new and different, if we really understand that this plague, if you will, is going to pass over, but in the meantime, it's creating chaos and moving the air around us in a whole new way, literally. If we know that, then we know that our discomfort comes from the newness that is happening both within and around about us. And it is uncomfortable when things change. We create our little nest, it's happy. Think about a bird for a minute, would you? My friend has a hummingbird nest in her backyard, and I am so jealous. I want one. But I haven't convinced my hummingbird to make a nest yet. I'm working on it. But can you imagine the mother lays her little eggs, and then she sits on them for a while, and it's nice. You know, it's just, this is what I was made to do. This is lovely. I want the world to stay just like this. But it's not going to, is it? In very short time, those little eggs are going to start cracking. You know, she gets to start worrying, what's going on? And then pretty soon the little birds stick their heads out. And then motherhood really starts. And she's got to keep them in the nest, and she's got to keep them fed, and she's got to keep the nest clean. And I've got to imagine that even the sweetest little bird in the entire world has times when they think, this is not what I signed up for. That's where most of us are right now. This is not what I signed up for. This is not the life I thought I was going to live. This is not the way I want to live. But the way that it is right now will pass. That's what's going to pass. The decisions that you make about yourself, the decisions you make about who you are and who you will be in this new world, and trust me, it's going to be a whole new world. The decisions that you make about that are going to determine how comfortable you will be in the whole new world. You were made for just this time, or you wouldn't be here. If you are here, you have work to do. What is that? Ask yourself, and then follow where the answers lead. You will find yourself in a whole new place, but, you know, isn't life always doing that? My grandchildren were adorable little infants, and I loved them dearly. And then the world changed. And they became toddlers, and then the world changed again. And they became young children. And the world changed again, and they became teenagers. And each time I thought, who will I meet now? How are they going to be now? And that was just my feeling. Can you imagine how they felt? Can you remember how you felt when you suddenly realized you were in a whole new place? It's a little uncomfortable. But the discomfort passes until you make your way in the new world. And then the world will change again, and you will feel uncomfortable again. It just keeps happening. So I suppose the answer is get used to it. Get used to the change. Susan, I'm going to answer your question next week. I'm going to keep it. It's a good question. Kirk reminds me that fear isn't the absence of courage, but a guiding light. It isn't the absence of courage. It's courage taking action. To combat fear, we need to be courageous, which means to have heart. Are you listening, Paul? To be courageous is to take heart. That's what it's from the French. To take heart, to allow that part of you that is filled with heart, with feeling, with caring, with compassion, to allow that to step forward. That's courage. Let that be your guiding light. says, what I learned from you through David Bruner. Oh, God bless David. Are blessed are the flexible, for they shall not stay bent out of shape. It's true, isn't it? It's true. As terrible as these times may seem, it hurts even more if we are inflexible. Inflexibility is what is still causing some people to go out and try to meet with their friends and do all those things the rest of us are gasping about. Inflexible are those ministers that are insisting in their mega churches that people come to church on Sunday, defying what all the health experts are telling us, endangering people, endangering lives. That's inflexible. Flexible is, there's another way to do this. Hello, Facebook, Facebook Live, Zoom, all those other places where we can meet and be together and share common thoughts and be in and with God. We can do that. We don't need to be in one pointy roofed building together. We can be in our own homes. Some of you are probably in your pajamas. I may go do that soon. Some of you are in shorts and sweats, and some of you have still got your business clothes on because it's what you do. Some of you have a cat on your lap. Some of you have a dog at your feet. Hey, you couldn't do that in church. There's some good in this. There's some good in this. Thank you, Andre. The secret is to come off autopilot. If we keep reacting in the same old ways to a new set of circumstances, we're nuts. And we're going to be in pain. And we may even create pain for others. Why do that? Why not be flexible? Why not say, let's see what this has to bring me? Who will I be when this is over? The decision for that starts now. Who you will be once this passes over is who you decide to be. A few thousand years ago, on Passover, Moses said to his people, to protect yourself from the final plague, put lamb's blood over your door, and the angel of death will pass over. I'm not recommending that you put lamb's blood over your door. But I am inviting you to have the kind of faith those people had who did. Have faith that your God is not a vengeful God. Have faith that there is a blessing in this greater than what appears to be its curse. And have faith that you will, in fact, find the blessing in it and make use of that. And that you will be better and greater and more spiritual and stronger and less confused and less frightened and more powerful once it has passed over than you have ever been before. The people had faith. And so they did that silly thing that I'm sure must have seemed kind of crazy to some of their neighbors, and I'm sure some of their neighbors just laughed and said, I'm not going to do that. And according to the story, that didn't work really well for them. What is your equivalent of that? bottom line is not about smearing something over your door. It is about having faith that something protects you and that you will be safe and that something even greater will come of this than has ever been before in your life. You can make a difference now by deciding now not to let the fear run your life, not to let the confusion or the chaos run your life, not to let the long lines at the supermarket run your life, but to let your faith in something greater within you, let that run your life. We have so much work to do to make this world a better place. So much work to do. Let us get the lessons of this time. Let us know that something good will come of all of this. Let us know that we are, in fact, greater than we have ever been. And that it is time to demonstrate that. Time to become what we are here to be. Time to have faith not just in a God out there in the world, but in a God that lives right under our roof, within us, within everybody that we share that roof with, within everybody outside of that. But if you don't know it for yourself, then it doesn't do any good to know it for everybody else. You are a place where God is. You can be no greater than that, but you can let it show. You can take steps to let it be demonstrated, manifested in your life. So who will you be? Tomorrow? Next week? Next month? When the plague has passed over, what will they say of you? When you step out into the world once again, what will they say of you? This is the first night of Passover. Where is your faith? Who do you serve? What will that mean for you? What will you do with that piece of information? Paul and Lucy sent a note. They said many times Lucy and I were up against challenges, and we asked, what would how would Cac or Marlene handle this? And then we prayed. That's what we would do. You don't have to take this on all by yourself. And you don't have to save the whole world. You just have to open yours up to something greater. Let's pray. Thanks, Paul. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. If it's not, just kind of soft your eyes and just listen for a moment. Take a deep breath. And know that with each breath, with each inhalation, you inhale the presence of God. you inhale the power of God. The creative mind, the wisdom, the joy, the love, the understanding, the presence of God. And each time you exhale anything unlike that is in your body or your mind or your consciousness. Any fear, any doubt, any anger, any resistance. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in love, joy, wisdom, understanding. Breathing out fear. Breathing out doubt. Breathing in the knowledge that you are a place where the divine is expressing. And that when you do that, you are, in fact, the divine expressing. Breathing. Breathing in spirit. Answers, solutions, power, strength, courage. Breathing out anything unlike that. You are divine. You are a spiritual being having a very human experience, but you are greater than that experience. Don't fear it. Be greater. Be who you are. Look around you. Good is unfolding now. Healing is unfolding now. Power and courage, joy and love, and so much more is unfolding now, because God is unfolding now as you, through you, in every moment. It is everywhere. But it is in this moment most particularly where you are, and what a joy that is. What a joy to be you becoming. You expressing you. As the divine you have always been, but even more so now. Breathing in God, awareness. Breathing out fear. Breathing in understanding. Breathing out confusion. Simply breathing. What a miracle that is. And so from this moment forward, we commit ourselves to being that, and only that. And if we forget, there is something within us that goes, oops, there's me doing that. And I don't forget anymore. And we are flexible and knowledgeable and aware. Everywhere we look, we see the presence of God. It is that simple. Even as we look into the mirror, all that we see is all that there is. And it is Spirit expressing. That's really all we need to know, isn't it? To remember. We need to remember, and so we do. This is part of our prayer. We remember tonight that all that there is God. And so all that we are is that. It is all we can be. It is all we have ever been. If we have forgotten, tonight we remember. Tonight we have faith. And that faith passes all understanding and wakes us up to who we really are, what we have always been meant to be. In deepest gratitude, we simply allow it to be so. And so it is. Thank you for being here tonight. What a joy it is for me to be able to be with you and to do what I love the best. Talk about God and you. Thank you, CAC, for all the technical and non-technical help. I couldn't do it without you. Believe me, I couldn't do it without her. I'll be back here Sunday at noon. I get closer to the real time every week, so hang in there. This is going to be good. Easter's coming. Celebrate that in whatever way is appropriate for you. But celebrate it, because you deserve a celebration. And then I'll be back again next Wednesday night at 7. Or somewhere right around 7. Be safe. Be godlike. Be grateful. Be divine this week. I celebrate who you are. I pray for who you are. Feel free to leave whatever comments you would like before you leave. More things I can talk about, more questions that you've got. I welcome them all. I'm very grateful that you chose to be here tonight. You make a difference in my life, and you make a difference in the world. Be all of who you are, because no one else can do that. And when you do, you bless each and every one of us. Those of you who went to Spirit Works know that I closed often with a couple of ideas. But one was simply to ask you to go with God, because in fact you could go no other way. Repeat after me, if you will. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called life. Life is in my mind, life is in my body, and life is in my affairs. I think it, I feel it, I believe it, and I accept it, just the way that it is, and just the way that it is not. Thank you, life. God bless. See you Sunday. See you next Wednesday. Thanks for being here.